Let's try this again. Hopefully no one calls again while I'm trying to do this. Do this now 3 times. Talk about what's going on, why I moved. The first cut took 45 minutes. The second cut I was able to shave 10 off. I want to try to get this around 25 minutes if possible. So if you need to, get a drink, get something to snack on. You're going to be here for a minute for those of you who want to know. So we got to go back to before we even bought our original house back up in New York. As we're in the process of closing in on that property and getting ready to, because we had to do some renovations on it beforehand, we found out that the county, the Onondaga County, or OSIDA, if you're interested in the acronym OSIDA, we're sending out letters to everyone on the road of which we were going to move on to, telling them they wanted to buy their homes, and if they didn't want to sell them, they would be sold to eminent domain. Eminent domain, eminent domain basically is it. I don't know the full workaround for it, but I do know that they can take the homeowners to court and they can argue a case for, well, everyone in the area is selling and they're refusing and they're making it difficult, and it actually point out like all the negatives this could bring to the area and how we're not going to be able to attract businesses and whatever, and a judge can actually rule in favor of them and basically give their house over to this entity for next to nothing. Whose houses did this include? This included my in-laws' house. That would be the house that my wife grew up in. It would be her grandparents' house, who lived right across the street. They had been there for decades. Her grandfather was one of the founding members of the Clay Historical Society. Or the name had been a part of it. I get it confused. And her older sister's family, who literally built a house there, like next to her parents. Like that was the goal. They were going to live there until they were no longer on this planet anymore. They wanted to live on that road. All 3 of them were sent these letters saying they want to buy. Fast forward to February. I think I saw these around June, July. I saw these letters. Fast forward to February. We contact the representative who was in charge of sending out all of these letters, and he was a royal douchebag. He was a dick. Very rude. Very, very unprofessional. And my wife had reached out to him because we hadn't gotten anything, and we're curious, like, is our, how are we going to be affected by this? So, him being a dickhead, sorry, that's not very Christian, but that's how he was being, he says, well, we don't know, there might be some interest in the property, what number were you thinking of? And my wife just threw a number out the top of her head, and he basically laughed in her ear about it and said, well, I don't know, we'll let you know if we're interested, X, Y, and Z. Well, apparently this was a good thing because there was so much negativity coming from this that was being reported to the local press and the newspapers that they finally had to do a town hall to address this. So it was all the OSIDA people, including the guy ahead of it all, McMahon, and he and all the people who were there were asking him questions. And basically, he had no choice because all the negativity he was worried was going to affect a potential buyer to come in and buy all this land. So he came out and pretty much said that we're going to make everything right. We're going to do whatever we can do. So February 4 or 5 months later, her family started packing up, and they actually moved in Tennessee because they had enough in New York. That was it. I don't want to get into each of their stories because that could be its own separate video, but I will say that they got royally screwed and lowballed. My in-laws family had dozens of acres of farmland. My sister-in-law's and her husband's house that was built was like between 5 and 10 years old, barely even broken into. And then her grandparents, who had been there for decades. So they moved and went to Tennessee. And then we were talking about what we wanted to do, where we wanted to move. And I said, I don't know. Were you thinking about moving near your family? And she's, she said she was thinking about moving from me. I don't remember how the exact question was asked, but like she wanted to move near her family. I was open to it because my family up here, I love them to death, but they don't really like go out of their way to do family things. I mean, my mother watched my daughter a couple times a week so I could go to work, and I'm very thankful for that. But outside of that, like, we never really like did anything. Like, we never went and did anything as a family. Even on holidays, I felt like sometimes it was pulling teeth, except for maybe Christmas. But like for every other holiday, it was just like, why even, why bother, I guess, would be the appropriate feeling I was getting behind it. And I guess a lot of it just comes down to energy, and a lot of it was when my father died. I definitely feel like that was a lot of wind out of everyone's sails, and I tried for a little while to be like the hype man of the family and be like, hey guys, you want to get together for this, and you want to get together for that, and hey, let's do this and let's do that. But I felt like in the coming years, it was just like an afterthought. Like 2 weeks before something, we're like, hey, are we still getting together for this? And no, I don't know, maybe. But I mean, I love my family, but like when it comes to planning things or doing stuff together just because we're family, that was never really like a big thing. And I'm someone who just likes to try to be around people. I mean, I like my quiet time too, but I also like my days where I can, talk to people, and I do get along with my wife's family really well. Not so much so where they are paying for everything, as other members of my family would like to think. Apparently, according to one person, her family bankrolled our entire marriage, and I'm like, yeah, if only they actually knew. But yeah, I told them that, and I'm like, hey, do you want to lend me $5? And they're like, you married our daughter, you know what you got into. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. So there's that. So I'm like maybe let's try it. Let's try that area, see if it works. And then we looked around Tennessee, and we weren't really finding too much. We actually came down to Tennessee for Easter weekend, and we actually looked at a few houses. Just like drove past them, and weren't really anything that we were excited about. A lot of the stuff that we were told to check out, this town called Gallatin, the houses were not in the greatest conditions. The neighborhoods were not the greatest, and it's not really something I want to bring my daughter up in. So we said, okay, let's extend our search a little bit. So we started looking over into Kentucky, because they live in a very small town, like just over the border in Tennessee. And we actually settled on a house in Franklin, Kentucky. And we went from there. I want to say in October, the October before we left, that's when we finally got our purchase option from the lawyer. And a purchase option is just an agreement that says that in a certain set period of time, you will not sell this property to anyone else. We have expressed interest in it, and within that time period, we start going through the closing process. And if we choose not to, then you're free up to renegotiate, things like that. And then we had a clause where we had 30 days to vacate the premises after closing, because we did not know when they were going to want to close. So they were kind enough to at least do that. So we're like, okay, well, they have until June, July of next year to solidify this. So I put on Facebook, I was being cryptic about it, but that's because, information like this I don't need to give everyone the details. It's really none of their business. Let people know what was going on, who needed to know what was going on, and told my family, I'm like, yeah, we're moving. We're moving out of state. There was a lot of pullback on that from a couple of people telling me, well, you should try to find a place here. This next part may be a little complicated to understand, or maybe I think it is. But in New York State, there's a 21% income tax on what you earn, plus the state tax, which I believe is around 8 to 10%. In Kentucky, it's one flat rate of 5%. Second thing, property values down here are way better value than property values in New York. I had a few people showing me listings for houses that had the same, if not less, square footage with no land, because we almost had a full acre of land. Trust me, you get to appreciate it when you're the one who's trying to mow it with a Craftsman push mower, and I'm not talking about a riding mower. You truly feel that almost full two-thirds of an acre to land when you have to use a push mower to trim it all. It was brutal. So we're looking at houses that were smaller than ours that had even less square footage, and they're wanting 100. Like I saw one place that was like 180 something $1,000, and there was a waiting list to look at it, and you had to put a money down on a reservation to go and look at it. And for anything that was over what we wanted, they wanted similar houses that we were looking at were selling at around over $250,000 for the same. And then when we negotiated because we got a lawyer to help us with this, I can't recommend that enough. Anyone who's dealing with this, get a lawyer. Save yourself all the hassle. It will cost you some money, but it'll save you a lot more in the end. Trust me. Get a lawyer if you're dealing with this stuff. Yeah, I got the lawyer. They negotiated. We told them to negotiate on our behalf because the amount that my wife originally said, that was their amount that they listed in the purchase option. So we're thinking, oh, okay, apparently it's not so funny anymore. But we said no. At this point, all of her family had left. They have disrespected us. They have not gotten back to us in a timely manner. And every time they have, they've been very passive aggressive about it or just downright disrespectful. So now they're going to pay for it, because the last thing is that we got that last house on a first-time homeowner's loan, and a first-time homeowner's loan, you pay like 3%. I want to say around 3%. It may vary depending on who you go with and what state, but I want to say it's low single digits percentage of what the amount of the house is due at closing. And because we are selling our first house, we did not qualify for another one, meaning that we were going to have to pay a lot more out of pocket. So, after a couple days of our lawyer negotiating with their people, they came back and they only came up about like $5 or $10,000. And we told them, nope, this is our number, and we're not going any lower than that. We told our lawyer, we pay similar, if not more, taxes on our road than most other people for what they have been given, which are more than us. People have been offered more for less property than we currently own, and we feel like that we deserve more, depending on the circumstances, because now we have to find a new type of mortgage loan. I don't think that last part we told him, but that was the thought I was having with my wife. And I want to say either later that evening or the following day, he told us, yeah, we're good. Just like that, we're good. So then it was the waiting game. Now it's the waiting game. Now we need to decide. Now we have to wait on them for when they want to close. Now keep in mind they had until about June or July, to basically tell us they're still interested in the house. Of which there was supposed to be like a 90-day. Some kind of 90-day period of where they have to just notify us that they're still interested in the house, and then we officially go into they're going to buy it from us. Excuse me. So we're waiting. We didn't hear anything from them in June. Didn't hear anything in the beginning of July. We didn't hear from them until the final week of July, and that they wanted us to go and sign the paperwork to close. I want to say the 5th or 6th of August, and then we had that 30-day closing clause, and many people are, I thought you said 90 days. And I'm like, no, think of that the 90 days as some kind of hard assurance that they can't get out of, or it's basically an allotted amount of time where they really now they have to pay, but I feel like they almost jumped the gun and went straight to no. Now we want to buy, and we can close. We can close, and you'll be forced to leave the house the first week of September, and that was crazy. So then we had to hustle. We had to find a loan. We had to find a company to get a loan through. We had to find insurance. We had to find a house. Just so many things. And thankfully, everything fell into place the way it should. And we actually flew down Labor Day weekend to Nashville, and I saw the house for the very first time. Or no, it was not Labor Day. It was before Labor Day weekend. Or was it Labor Day? I don't... No, I had to been. Yeah, Labor Day weekend, yeah. We flew down Labor Day weekend. I saw the house for the very first time on Labor Day. On the 5th, I want to say. Yeah. It might 4th or 5th. I'm getting my days mixed up. Anyway, we flew down. We had to get everything ready for signing. I think Monday. Yeah, Monday, and then there was a whole issue with that, and then we had to wait for payment from the county, and we had to wire money, and that took longer than normal. Us getting it took longer than normal, but I literally saw the house that Monday morning for the very first time in person. I had seen videos and photos of it, but I hadn't been there in person. And then we signed the paperwork. At about 3:30 that afternoon, they were actually able to open up the place on Labor Day. They were originally supposed to be closed. And we got everyone in there, including the original owner, signed everything, and then drove the hour back to the airport to catch one of the last flights home, of which I had to go through TSA a second time because I walked through a certain point of Nashville's airport where they do not let you go back through, so you got to go all the way through TSA again. And of course, as I'm getting frisked, because with me carrying my wallet, my phone, my hat, and my sunglasses, apparently it went off and he had to check me. And of course, while he's doing that, my phone's going off while it's going through TSA. So I'm being openly frisked in public. And my phone's going off, and of course, and it's my wife, and she's telling me we're boarding early. So I had to sprint from TSA to our gate. Thankfully, they were still loading the plane, and that was just a glorious fiasco, just a huge mess. But got on the plane, I guess, and everything worked out fine. Spent the last week here in New York, getting everything clean. To which we only had 2 people come by and help us move. We had reached out on Facebook countless times. We had told members of our church countless times. And my mom and my brother showed up. My other brother thought we were having a party. I said, no, we're not having a party. Or he said, get together. I said, no, we're loading the moving truck. Well, Mom said we're having a party. Nope, we're loading the truck. Well, it's just really messed up. You don't invite your brother to help you out. And I'm like, fine then, come by at about 1:30 and help us move. He never showed up. No one helped me show up. And now that week, I had faced so many weird feelings of anxiety and questioning myself, am I doing the right thing? And it wasn't until that Sunday, the September 11th, we had to be out by the 12th. It wasn't until then, as I'm loading this truck by myself in the rain, did I realize this will be better for me in the long run. I was extremely discouraged that no one was able to come out and help. I'm not going to sit here and name names. I'm not saying that to make anyone feel bad, but that is in fact what happened, and I'd be lying to myself if I said that I wasn't upset. My goal was to be on the road no later than 4:30, 5 o'clock. We did not leave until 9 o'clock at night. We did not get to our hotel until 1:45 in the morning, of which we slept maybe 7.5 hours, and then proceeded to drive the rest of the way to Kentucky, in which we did not get there until around 9:30 at night because we hit massive traffic and construction and stoppages along the way. So, that's what happened. We are in a much bigger house. It doesn't have as much land, which is a good thing. I don't need that much land. Got all the stuff that we needed to get done taken care of here. And got Hope enrolled in school. So that's what's going on. I've had people ask me, why don't you just get it someplace else? Why there? Why not New York? And I'm like, honestly, I feel like that book of New York has officially been closed. I feel like there's nothing else I can do there. And it was just time to start something new. And the other part of it too was my wife had to be without her family for almost 2 years during this whole thing. And I'm thinking, I'm willing to put in that much time before I start having my issues. But honestly, as it stands right now, I'm happy with it. Aside from the unpacking, of course, there's still plenty to do for that. And that's kind of what's been going on. Just starting my whole new life in Kentucky. Got the new Kentucky plates, Kentucky driver's license. Got to get all the insurance switched over. Had to get Hope a physical for school, and had to get all of that stuff done. Which, by the way, boy, do they take their physicals here very seriously when it comes for kids enrolling into school. And for anyone that wants to, talk down on southern states being like too hick or too stupid, let me just tell you something. They care more about them kids at that school than you think. And they just want to make sure everything is thorough. So hopefully that was able to explain most of it. I could get more into the personal feelings of it, but honestly, as I said, me loading that truck by myself in the rain for over 8 hours was so stressful and annoying and depressing and borderline PTSD-esque that I think it's best if I just try to not dwell on it. It might just be best. I consider that to be a perfect fitting to the end of living in New York. Just, they want to take your house, and then, then as you're leaving, it just wants to take your happiness too, I guess. But Needless to say, I'm happy with where we are now. I am eager to see what the future brings. And now that my daughter is in school, my wife is still able to stay with her company. I'm feeling good. So hopefully you all enjoyed. If there's any questions or anything that I left out, ask, and I'll do my best to answer them in the comments. Again, if anyone watching this felt like I was speaking negatively about people, I'm not. I'm really not. I'm not sitting here saying I'm mad at so many people. I'm mainly mad at maybe one person, and that would be my other brother, because he tried to turn this into a narcissistic moment where he can make it about himself, and I gave him an out, and he basically I called his bluff, and he just didn't want to show. So that's all right. It is what it is. That's a story for maybe another time. So thank you all for watching, and here's to the new future in Kentucky.